you all for coming out to our One Act Festival. One of the things that I love here at the chain is that we like to foster communication of artist and audience. It helps you learn a little bit more about the process. It helps them build better audience space. So to that regard, we're going to do a talk back with our artists tonight. And I'd like to welcome the artists and creators of Immaculate Conception of Black Jesus in Sundowner, Alabama. I keep wanting to make it Ohio. All right. So please introduce yourselves and let them know what your part in today's production.
Hi, my name is James Sandra, and I play Joseph.
I'm Erin Beats. I was Sarah.
I'm Tripp-Thompson, and I'm the playwright.
I'm Ryan Hartley, and I directed the show.
So Joe, let's start with you and the conception of this piece. What inspired it? What led you on this particular journey?
I'm not gonna lie, I really don't know. I like to say I was in bed with a man, but I don't know if I should say that for a living. I guess really it was not so much the initial idea as in everything else that got layered on top of it, because I had the idea, it's like, okay, Jesus is back and Jesus is black. It just makes sense. And then I was, I have a history of more in your face, I like that kind of artwork. And so I was like, okay, naturally, he's born in the sundown town. And to a couple of white kids. And their parents are grand dragons in the KKK. It just makes sense. And decided to just roll with that, and I just trusted that whatever that story is, it lived in me, and I just wrote it.
This is the first work of yours that I read. So what is your, you just kind of talked about your type, but what do you generally like to write?
I generally like to write stuff that is gruesome, sensational, vitally theatrical, and absolutely necessary. I tend to really love Martin McDonough, Sarah Kane, and Philip Ridley. I just really like those artists because they write very authentically to the weirdness that it goes on in their head, and they inspired me to do the same. So
yeah, it's you've got a really great sense of humor, and that, in my opinion. So when as director, when you get a piece like this, how do you approach it? I feel like this is a minefield of things to maneuver around.
Okay. Well, this specific piece, when Joe sent it my way, I was a little apprehensive at first, only maybe not for the reason you might think. I don't tend to approach religious material in the work that I do. I find that to be I'm just really kind of not interested in it anymore. Coming from a very religious upbringing, it's something that I've moved away from, and so I don't like to rely on it. Once I got a handle on what Joe had actually written and realized it was not an adaptation of a Bible story, it was an as if, right? It was an as if the circumstances of this Bible story were taking place now, and in this particular set of circumstances in a very specific place. For me, it was about charting the journey from the entrance of Joseph into the play and getting him reconnected with Sarah at the end of the play. That's what it's always been about for me. There's all this other stuff that goes on. They have all these great conversations, and they have their sense of humor, which is really fun. There's kind of gallows humor that goes on, and literally, really. And there's a lot of little touch points, right? A lot of little political things, religious political things we touch on. But at the end of the day, they're just 16-year-old kids. And they're 16-year-old kids that were raised in this very specific environment with a lot of hatred. And I was inspired by reading about this young woman who had been raised actually in a KKK household and had broken away as an adult. And you probably remember, because we talked about this for several verses, there was this great quote from this book or article that she wrote, where she said, "Hate is exhausting." So for me, it was about these kids that they want to get out. And they have this baby, she loves this baby that she's had in these really weird circumstances. And she doesn't care about the ethnicity of the baby. She just really wants to keep the baby and move on. And this guy really wants to do it with her. So all of that to say, it was always about getting Joseph literally to the bed, to sitting in the bed with her. in that final moment. How did we get from entrance through the window to sitting on that? And we're gonna ask.
Yeah. Speaking of interest, best entrance of any in the One Act Festival ever. Like I was like stunned. So great. So from the two of you perspective, are you able to go into this and go like, oh, I know what the Virgin Mary is, and I know I'm not playing Mary like Sarah, but like, how hard is it to get rid of that and go like, I'm actually just playing these two kids and not any stereotypical or preconceived notion of these characters?
Mm-hmm. You go ahead.
Okay. For me, it wasn't that hard, right? Because I feel like the way that Joe's written it is so conversational, it's so real, you know, that kind of banter, which I'm a huge sucker for. And, you know, growing up pretty Catholic, you know, Joseph and Mary are larger than life. You know what I mean? They're not people, right? I mean, but they're not people, right? These are kids, and you can kind of, it's easy for me to separate it because, you know, I don't see them as the religious figures we're supposed to be having.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also grew up religious, and so I feel like when you talk about Mary and Joseph, like, they're always just put on this pedestal of like, oh, it's the Virgin Mary. Yeah, and it's this huge thing. But I think the thing that really got me into this was reading that the name was Sarah instead of Mary. I was just like, that's hilarious to me. I don't know why. I went into it being like, oh yeah, Joseph and Mary, and I was like, no, it's Joseph and Sarah. And I was like, I think that for me helped me remove it. And I just think I think it's so modern that in my mind, they're just completely two separate couples.
Yeah.
Right? That the same thing happened to one of them, or one couple. Yeah.
Joe, you kind of referenced some of the other aspects that are in this play. You do a really great job of not being explicit with some of your, like, I mean, actually, even the high dragons that are like only great dragons are only like you briefly mentioned, and we don't spend a lot of time. The fact that they're actually in the midst of a big news cycle, and then the hypocriticalness of political events. Like all of those things are centered in their actions, but you don't spend a lot of time on it. Does that come in drafts? Do you start off very heavy-handed, or are you just able to kind of filter it in?
I love that. That makes my heart very happy because I think it speaks to where I was when I wrote this piece. This is pretty largely unchanged from the first time I wrote it. And that's just because for me, it was the characters that drove the conversation. And there just is no need for them to be explicit or to talk about the political nature or be didactic because it's just two 16-year-old kids dealing with the most wild situation. And so it didn't come in drafts. I was just very, very lucky that I trusted my initial gut and just went with it. And I'm very thankful to hear that because, I mean, truly, I just hope people come and have a good laugh. I'm not trying to prove anything or say that, like, I understand the socio-political stuff or what I think is best for America. I just think that we give birth to these beautiful little children and they're going to change the world.
You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but because several of you talked about your religious background, was there any concern about doing this or that what your family would think about you doing this?
So it's actually funny, we found out in the process we were both philosophy majors. And so I think in my junior year of college, I had very much like, I was in a religious class and I was around all these people and I think I finally took a step back and realized how I thought about religion and I feel like I've been open with my parents and they loved the title of this and they were immediately like, oh, that's hilarious. I'd love to see that. I'd love to sit down. So I wasn't super concerned about it.
Yeah, neither was I. I mean, I grew up Catholic, but, you know, I grew up in Boston, you know, so it's like very much like we go to church twice a year.
Awesome. I've loved this piece since I first read it. I manifested so beautifully. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.